This is actually insane. NHL Insider Elliotte Friedman has dropped a bombshell Flames trade report revolving around Rasmus Andersson. Unfortunately, the situation is becoming something that the Flames are all too familiar with, and fans are starting to turn on the Swedish defenseman. Yeah, it's actually insane. We're going to get into all that more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay updated on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. And honestly, WTF is going on? What is going on right now with the Rasmus Andersson situation? I swear, maybe we were a little distracted with the NHL draft a little bit, and it was super exciting, but all of a sudden, the Rasmus Andersson trade rumor saga has absolutely exploded, and we have so many updates just from the past couple days alone. But first, what we need to start with is what Elliotte Friedman said on the 32 Thoughts podcast from the weekend, so not from that long ago. So here's a summary of what Friedman's segment on Rasmus Andersson on the latest 32 Thoughts podcast. And they were talking about this for quite a while, but this is a great summary here. So the team isn't going to, or another team isn't going to acquire him unless they can extend him because they won't pay the acquisition cost without the extension. And that makes sense. I mean, why would you want to trade for a guy for just one run when the Flames are going to be wanting a price where we're assuming that it's a sign and trade sort of thing? So that totally makes sense. That's valid. So Andersson has a lot of power here, and he really does, and I'm going to have a huge update on that. But Andersson has a lot more power than I think the Flames do at this point. Vegas took a big run, but maybe they're still in the running. One team did think they were going to get it done, but Andersson wouldn't extend at this time. Again, I'm going to get into who that team is. Other teams couldn't get the commitment that Andersson would sign. You can kind of assume what sort of teams those are. The teams he's been linked to, like a Detroit, like an Ottawa, teams that, not everyone wants to play for, but they both have been in the rumors there. And also, Calgary sees the benefit to Andersson wanting to have a big season, but it's a gamble for the Flames. Another way in which Andersson has power. And Craig Conroy has spoken out and said he's okay with Andersson, starting the season with the Flames, and maybe his trade value will increase. But there's always the chance it doesn't either. So already, just from what Friedman said, it's a big update. But we have even more to discuss, so stay tuned. Now, GM Craig Conroy has mentioned in several recent interviews that the team is comfortable having Andersson on the roster when the season opens, and for his need/desire for a good season in a contract year. That's kind of what that last point about Friedman just said, but Ryan Pike did note it as well, because Conroy has said, honestly, on multiple occasions now, that he is okay with Andersson starting the year with the Flames. I mean, there's still part of the population, I guess we can say, who thinks Andersson's going to extend with the Flames. I really think that's out of the question now, but hey, you never really know. Now, Elliotte Friedman had another update, and it's that he doesn't think Vegas is done trying to acquire Rasmus Andersson. Those phone calls between Alberta and Nevada are going nuts lately, apparently, because they're still going at it. So Vegas is not done trying to acquire Andersson, and this is an update, but we have even more of an update, so I'm not surprised. Vegas, I think they've been kind of clearing out some space. Who is it for? Is it to sign Mitch Marner, or is it to go after Rasmus Andersson? Or is it for both kind of thing? I mean, that would just be absolutely unfair and the most Golden Knights thing I've ever seen if they end up getting both. But Friedman thinks that Vegas is not done pursuing Andersson, which might be a good thing for the Flames, kind of. Let's see. So, Pierre LeBrun dropped an even bigger bombshell than what Friedman has been saying in his article on The Athletic. I'm so sorry. I just worked such a long day at work. I can't even speak anymore. So he said, as of Monday, the team that tops Andersson's list, league sources told The Athletic, is the Vegas Golden Knights. Man, I gotta learn how to speak. But this is crazy. So we know already that the Flames and Knights were interested in talking to each other, but now we know that Andersson has Vegas at the top of his list. But just wait, which explains why Vegas and Calgary have had numerous discussions over the past week, but still no trade has been made, as the Flames clearly haven't been excited yet with what the Golden Knights have put on the table. Conroy is not going to sell cheap, is what we're hearing, which is good. I mean, thank goodness Conroy, and Conroy we trust. It makes sense that the Flames believe they should get more in a trade if Andersson is signed to an extension. As part of it, he's got one more year on his current deal. But Andersson appears to be a little picky great, in where he would sign, which is obviously his right. It is a business at the end of the day, as he would be foregoing a chance at unrestricted free agency 12 months from now. And that's part of that gamble of, in a contract year playing like that. If you sign it now, you don't get to potentially make your value higher. But right now, it sounds like it's pretty much just Vegas for him. Great. Zero options then for Conroy now other than trading him to Vegas, which gives Vegas power. If they know Andersson only wants to go to Vegas, then they don't have to give as good of an offer, which means Calgary can't get as much. Why is this all being made public? It sucks. It makes the trading so much harder. And obviously no movement clauses and stuff does too, but it just really makes it a messy situation like we had with Jacob Markstrom when he wasn't traded at the deadline 2 years ago. But it's so eerily similar to stuff that happened with Markstrom. Totally with Hanifin, the parallels with Vegas and everything. But even you can think back to some of the other guys who wanted out, I guess we'll say. Pierre LeBrun's understanding is that the Senators, Blue Jackets, and Kings were among the teams with trade interest, but Andersson wasn't ready to talk extension with those teams, so a trade didn't materialize. And that's interesting because those are some decent teams there. I mean, LA is a beautiful place to live, obviously, and they've been a playoff team for how many years in a row? Obviously, they can't win, but the Sens are on the up, and so are the Jackets. So it's, man, being picky. It's not like they're offering Buffalo. That's all I'll say there. But let's continue. It's not that he must be extended to be dealt, but if he isn't, the value in the trade is diminished to some degree. That's not what we want. There remains the chance that Flames general manager Craig Conroy simply keeps Andersson and has him start next season in Calgary and focuses on the trade deadline in March as the better time to move him. It could happen. It's not ideal, but it could. Having said that, the Flames are hoping to reel in a top 4 defenseman in free agency as early as Tuesday when the market opens, and if they're able to pull that off, they might circle back to Vegas in trade talks regarding Andersson. I'm going to kind of circle back to this in a second, but lots of moving parts to all this, but the biggest takeaway is that if Andersson agrees to an extension as part of the trade in the coming days, it's likely with Vegas. Of note, my understanding is that Nick Hague was part of the earlier trade discussions between Vegas and Calgary, but he has since been dealt to Nashville, so if Vegas and Calgary pick up their trade talks again on Andersson, they'll have to find another path to a deal. It's got to be futures. I mean, we already have their pick for next season, so I don't know what Conroy's going after, but it has to be significant, obviously. We haven't gone through this whole trade rumor saga for it not to be significant. But some people are happy, some people aren't. And Yegor Sharangovich replaced Breadman, so at Fiery Sharky, that's someone who always speaks their mind, doesn't hold back at all. And they said this, so Gaudreau and Tkachuk are looking like absolute heroes in comparison to Andersson and Hanifin. Wow. So he said Gaudreau did it for his family, and Tkachuk helped the Flames get assets for him and gave a big list of teams he wanted to go. It wasn't just Florida. Hanifin strung the Flames along for an extension until he said no and gave very few teams he would go and sign an extension with. Not exactly ideal. We know it was essentially Boston, Tampa, or Vegas, and then he got traded to Vegas. We didn't get all that much back. Now Andersson has given Conroy only one team he would sign an extension with, essentially reducing Conroy's power in the situation to almost nothing. Look, I love Rasmus Andersson. He was a great player for the Flames. He might still be a great player for the Flames if he's still on the team. But making this all so messy, it's just not necessary, and we're so tired of it as Flames fans. So yes, this is a harsh way to look at it, and is it fully truthful? Maybe not, but it does kind of suck. Again, this is all coming through other people, through Friedman, through LeBrun, but it sounds like it is the actual truth of the situation. So, continuing, they said, Rasmus, what the F are you doing? And this is in regards to Darren Dreger dropping that Ken Holland stepped up with a whopper of a deal for Rasmus Andersson, and Andersson didn't want to play in Los Angeles. How do you not want to play there? I don't get it. This could have been an amazing deal for the Flames. If it's a whopper of a deal, I'm sure Conroy would have loved to take it. But obviously, if Andersson wasn't going to sign and isn't going to play there, then a deal can't be done and it gets vetoed and whatever else happens. I miss the days when you could just do whatever you wanted with whoever. Whoa, pause. I mean, in terms of business with hockey. But, it's come on. I mean, really, the fact that players have that much power, it really does hurt a team. And if this is true, I mean, I might look at Rasmus Andersson a little bit differently now. But again, until something happens, we know the full truth for sure. I'll give everyone the benefit out of the doubt. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty, I guess. One last thing, so let's circle back to this. So having said that, the Flames are hoping to reel in a top 4 defenseman in free agency as early as Tuesday when the market opens, and if they're able to pull that off, they might circle back to Vegas and trade talks regarding Andersson. So does that mean that they're going after a replacement for Andersson? Does that mean that the Flames are trying to get a left-handed D? I saw the name Orlov floating around. Would that be someone you'd want to bring in? I wouldn't say no to Dmitry Orlov, but it is interesting. So if the Flames sign a defenseman, there's a better chance that Andersson does get traded and maybe to Vegas, but I still think that gives the Flames less power. I know this is way more of like a business side of things, but overall, it's interesting. It honestly is insane, and please let me know your thoughts down below in the comments on this entire situation. And speaking of comments, let's get into the comment of the day to wrap up this video. It comes from the most recent video that were draft-related. Remember when everything was all happy. But Tater Nuts here, they said this wasn't as good as last year's draft, but it was an absolutely solid draft. We drafted guys at center, a position of need and value. I feel like if we just keep stacking up first, second, and third round prospects, we will be in great shape in a few years. Conroy did another awesome job and is building the team through the draft. That's how you do it. Yes, it wasn't maybe the most exciting draft of all time, but it was so solid, and the Flames got some really good prospects that really dropped to the Flames, who are way higher in the prospect rankings, and we cannot complain with that. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe like you saw here today and have a wonderful rest of your day.